Hello and welcome. This is Rashim, the Be More Catalyst of Be More LLC, here to help you do more, serve more, and be more. And today we have a special guest, Michelle Nusum-Smith, who is the CEO of Word Woman LLC. Today she is going to share with us some of her grant writing tips, help you get information on how to write grants that get your organization funded. Right? How to get your vision paid, how to move forward. We know that we're very mission focused and mission based, but it takes money to help to keep those things moving. So how to get that? What are some of the steps? And she's going to help us with that. What I encourage you to do is get a sheet of paper, get a pen, and take notes. Be studious. That's how you really prepare for something like this. You write down your questions. If you have questions, feel free to write them in the chat. If you're listening to the replay, we're going to give you an opportunity to be able to get in touch with us and get in touch with Michelle Nusum-Smith, the Word Woman, if you have more questions. And also, if you listen to the end, she has something extra juicy and special that she is going to share. So stay on. Can't wait for her to share that with you. I personally don't like bios, but what I do like to know about people is their Be More movement. And everyone in my tribe knows that Be More movement is the be, who you are at your core, your more, your aspirations and your desires. And your movement is the steps that you're committed to taking to get you from where you are to where you want to be. So, Michelle Nusum-Smith, what is your Be More movement?
So, good afternoon, everyone. I guess my Be More movement is to really be able to move from wanting to help people to make a difference to actually being a part of helping people making a difference and seeing the world change. You know, my personal slogan is I'm a do-gooder and I help do-gooders to do good. And so that's my movement, is to see more and more do-gooders actually living their dreams of making a difference.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So, Michelle, tell us something about you that we cannot find on a bio.
Okay, so my maiden name is Nusum, which is spelled N-U-S-U-M, so it's a little bit different than how most people think it's spelled. And I am the only Michelle Nusum spelled that way in the world.
Wow.
I only know that because my daughter told me, she Googled me, and I guess at some point Google would tell you how many people with that name existed. But my dad is from Bermuda, and I pretty much know every Newsome in the U.S. because they're relative or somehow connected to me. But that's the one thing you wouldn't find on my bio.
Wow. So you mentioned your slogan is to help do-gooders to do good, and that you're a do-gooder. What got you started into doing some of this work? Why do you do this, and what got you in that direction?
So I was born to a mother who was a natural do-gooder. And I mean, I've been involved with volunteer work or somehow, just helping people since as long as I can remember. And it's just, a natural thing for me. And my first role in working, I was a greeter in a retail store. And I really enjoyed the idea of helping people to find what they needed and what they wanted. And then I got involved with working at a local hospital. And from then it just was, human services, community development, just grassroots stuff. And it's, I just fell in love with it.
Absolutely. I could definitely see how that happened. And definitely, hi, good afternoon, Alex. Definitely see the influence of like family. I know my grandmother was a huge influence on me in going down that direction. So as it pertains to grant writing, before we get into the actual lesson of it, tell us, why is grant writing so important? Why do we need to know how to do that? And how is that going to help us move our vision forward?
So grant writing is, I tell the joke that if you went to an elementary school and asked the children, what do you want to be when you grow up? No one is going to raise their hand and say grant writer. It's just not going to happen. But it's a critical skill, particularly if you are in the nonprofit sector even if you're not the person who is ultimately writing, you need to know how grant proposals develop. You need to understand how you present the idea of how are you grant ready. So it's not so much just about the program or the activity that you want to implement, but is it something that you can present in a way that a funder or a grant reviewer can read your narrative, read your budget, and fully understand what is the issue that you're looking to address. Does your project or program make sense? Is it logical? And financially, does this investment make sense?
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that you mentioned, and I'm so glad that you did, because sometimes we just want to go toward the money. You talked about getting grant ready. What are some steps that nonprofit professionals could take to get grant ready?
So the most important one is, I tend to use this in my training. There is a quote from a program officer. So one of the fundamental ways to be grant ready is to really know yourself, to know your organization and what you do well, so that you're not what I like to call paper chasing. So what is the mission of your organization? And your mission is defined by your organization, by your board of directors, and it helps you to have this targeted direction and purpose. When we're paper chasing, that target tends to, oh, that's where the money is. That's where the money is. And so then you end up being in a situation where your organization is doing a whole lot of things, not necessarily well, but you're getting funded. And so it's not moving the mission forward because we're just taking little steps in every direction.
Absolutely. I see that happening so much in terms of that paper chasing aspect of it. And people tend to get into mission creep, like, oh, our mission is this now. Oh, let's add this.
Yeah.
Oh, let's add this. Oh, there's this new grant. So let's now do this. And, I love what you said about focusing on what you actually do well, because that is something where you're letting the mission lead as opposed to letting the money lead.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So once you realize, okay, you got I know what we do well, we do youth development well, then what?
So then you are looking to identify a funder who is interested in what you do well, right? And so I recently had a conversation with a gentleman who he's very excited about his mission and what he wants to do. But when he went out to look for funders and to send out, requests, they just kind of went to any and everybody, right? And so he ends up getting a whole lot of sorry letters, right? But but you can save yourself time, you can save yourself effort, and you can, boost your own credibility within the philanthropic community by saying, okay, I need to identify who is going to be I serve children. I'm particularly interested in serving children. What we do really well is we feed them, right? So I'm going to look for funders who are interested in children, who are interested in maybe, hunger, socioeconomic issues. So it's connected to my mission versus, oh, I read about this particular funder. I read about that one. I got a long list of potential foundations, and I'm just going to throw this out there and see what sticks. Because, there are people who have to invest the time and the effort of reviewing the materials that you send to them. And so it's far better for you as the potential grantee to invest your time wisely in only sending it to folks who are actually going to be interested. But then also to be able to recognize that, particularly when it comes to like a family foundation, private foundations, they may have one person who is running the shop. So they don't really have a whole lot of time for you to, send a request to them that has nothing to do with what they're interested in. But now they've got to invest the time of following up with you, saying, sending out that letter no one wants to get that says, sorry, we can't help you.
Right. So you talked about identifying funders. How would a person, if they're like, okay, you know, some people feel like if they start an organization, milk and honey is going to flow from the sky, and or everybody cares about it. Everybody knows this is an issue, so everybody's just going to donate. You know, how to help people to identify those funders? What is that? What does the R&D look like in that process?
So again, keeping in mind that you go one step further, right? So you've got the mission, but then what exactly are you looking to do and where? Because all of those things may impact who's potentially going to be interested in funding you. So if I only am interested in serving communities in Baltimore City, then I know that if I'm out here in Frederick, then I shouldn't be sending my request to that particular funder because they're only interested in Baltimore City, right? But some of the ways that you can identify a potential funder would be who's currently doing what you're doing or something similar, and who's funding them, right? Of course, you've got the community, you've got community foundations, you've got, you know, I love Google. You can keyword search in Google and find potential funders. You've got the Foundation Center. You can go to the library and use their online directory for free. You can reserve time there. But really, it's about recognizing that people give people money. Unless you're applying for government grants where it's a little bit more of an objective process, people give people money. So even if all things, you know, line up, you know, they like children, we serve children. They're interested in Baltimore City, we're in Baltimore City. They fund organizations that are, you know, been around for 3 years or longer. We've been around for 4 years. So check, check, check. We're all perfect. Well, keep in mind, that's a wonderful thing, but the organization still, the folks who are staffing the organization, if you can, you want to be able to develop some type of connection with them. You want them to be able to know your organization by name, to potentially maybe even know you by name. And so that way, when your materials are coming in, your grant request is coming in, it's not a cold request per se that says, hey, you know, we're wonderful, we're great, give us some money. Because there are countless organizations that could say that, right? So there's still going to be layers. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a competition. Let's be honest.
No, that's good, because I love the part that you said about all things being equal, people give money to people. So that speaks to me about more than just being within your organization and knowing your organization, but networking.
Absolutely.
Like, are you just inside all the time? Who else knows? Not just about who you know or what you know, but who knows you?
Absolutely.
Who knows you? Like, yeah, you know this person, but do they know you? So I think that that's fantastic, and that's really major. What are, like, would you say, like, the top 3 biggest mistakes that people tend to make when they do grant writing? And actually, before you get into that, I'm just going to go check into the comments really quick. Alex mentioned he works with local government agency in the past. When he was with Motorola, grant writing could be a skill that could be very valuable for both nonprofits and local cities, state government organizations. I totally agree.
Absolutely.
And the side hustle coach mentioned, so you could be involved in the community and be a presence as well. That's so right. I think that's speaking to the whole networking piece, engaging with other people, and that sort of thing. So tell us, what are the 3 biggest mistakes that you see people make when it comes to grant writing?
I would say the 3 biggest would be, wow. Let's see. And these are in no certain order. They're just as they pop up in my head.
Okay.
But one in particular would be focusing on their activity, the outcome or the intended result of their activity. You know, we could do a whole lot of things. The example I like to use is I could be in this room right here and I could walk 2 miles and never leave this room. So yeah, I walked 2 miles, but what did I get done? What actually was accomplished? So being not so much focused on, oh, look how many people we, you know, had in our class, but the result of the class is the real piece that a funder is interested in. You know, if it's a workforce development piece, how many people actually got a job? Okay, we went through role plays of interviews 1,000 times, and that's wonderful. They can interview all day long. But how many of those folks actually got a job? The other one would be looking at the timeline of, what you're looking to accomplish and the timeline in which you have to do that. Generally speaking, most grants are going to have a 12-month period. So being able to be realistic. I think sometimes we get into trouble thinking, oh, we need to set these lofty goals. We're going to, in 12 months, we're going to feed 1,000 people every day for 12 months. And there's only 8 of us here, but somehow we're going to be able to do it, so you got to be realistic. And others prefer that. If you say, okay, we're creating a program that's going to have a significant impact on 50 people in 12 months, that's far better than saying, oh, we're going to just touch 5,000 people. They're going to hear about us, but we're not necessarily going to have significant change for them. And then the other would be, looking at how much time and effort have you put into planning to prepare and submit your grant proposal. I run into this a lot where you identify a grant opportunity, it's due in 2 weeks. You haven't even begun to think about submitting a grant proposal, but somehow you believe that you can get this done. And even if you do get it done, generally speaking, the odds are against you that you get funded. And if you did get funded, sometimes it's the worst thing that could ever happen to you is to actually get funded. Because if you're not prepared, now you've got a grant and you basically created a situation where you are doomed and that you're going to have a bad track record with this particular grant maker who is probably not going to want to fund you again. So really thinking about, again, kind of going back to that paper chasing thing, even if everything matches, let's be realistic in that we're planning. You could begin that, I call it homework. Get your homework done. Have already sort of be thinking about and planning for the grant proposal development process. So that way when Google, Gmail or whatever you see on Facebook, somebody recommend that people who are interested in applying for grants, follow these funders on social media, on Twitter, they promote their grant opportunities there, and sometimes they're disappointed that people aren't liking them. So to do that, it also presents an opportunity for you to be able to connect with the potential funder that way.
No, that is good. I see a lot of people in the comments can kind of resonate with what you're saying. Dr. Clark says it enables bad behavior and continue those bad behaviors. When you get the grant last minute, you're scrambling to try to make it happen. And Side Hustle says, yeah, I can see and hear that, and it makes a lot of sense. And Unclutter Now said, my team constantly wants to chase grants, unprepared, then prepare for the future by looking further down the road for monies later. And she's also said, or she or he said, you're making really great points on that.
Well, thank you.
The thing that I really got from it too, in terms of biggest mistakes, is I love what you said about focusing too much on the activity and not really focus on the output instead of the outcome. Like, okay, exactly. We gave away 50 book bags. All right, what does that mean? How does that translate? Are they better prepared? Are they passing classes now as a result of this? And I think that's huge. And what you said about in terms of planning realistically, as well as how we engage, whether or not we're going to connect with those potential donors. And I feel like that also speaks to what you said earlier, Michelle, when you were talking about people give money to people, in terms of connecting and building those relationships, really. And not just the only time I hear from you is when I want money, but you've seen me here, you know of me there, you see me over here. We follow each other on Twitter and all of these other good things. Hi, Gold Rush Card, better known as Corey. So I think that is definitely something that is major that people need to pay attention to. And I want to let everyone know, I don't know when different people came on, but also Michelle Smith has something extra juicy and special that she's going to share for those people who stay to the end. And I'm going to throw in a little bonus as well for people who stay on to the end. Before I let you go and wrap up, what is something that we all need to know? And what is something that we could do in the next 30 to 90 days that would better help us prepare in terms of writing a grant?
So I definitely think I would be remiss if I did not say this. Grants cannot be, should not be, will not be your only source of funding.
Listen.
They cannot be, they should not be, they will not be.
Yeah, look, I'm blowing up your... I am blowing up your spot.
It's so important. It's so important to recognize this. I mean, you know, I have a light on behind me. Grants will not necessarily pay for the lights. So you cannot narrowly look at, okay, we have a nonprofit, we're just going to go out and get all these grants. It's just not going to work. So you need to be thinking about diversification, particularly because grants will come and go. They'll come and go. So you need to be able to sustain yourself through individual gifts. Funders definitely want to see you working with somebody. If you're preparing a grant that says, we're the best thing that ever happened, we don't need anybody, we don't talk to anybody, we just do it all, that actually will not look well for you. You know, you'll look kind of, you know, like, how can you possibly be doing all this stuff? Whether it's just getting someone, you know, another organization that refers to you, you know, that alone means that you're dependent on somebody else. Mm-hmm. And so you want to make sure promoting the idea of partnership and collaborative effort is so important. Funders love to see that. Mm-hmm. I also want to mention this. You need to have your board members giving to your organization. Oftentimes you will see that question specifically asked in a grant application: what percentage of your board gives? You want that answer to always be 100%. It's not about how much money each person gives, but if you're on this board, we're assuming that you care about the mission, and we need you to put your money where your mouth is and commit to giving financially to keep these lights on, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I would say in the next 90 days, that homework piece. What I recommend folks to do is to create an electronic file in which you are housing certain information that you'll need regardless of the grant application. Your mission and vision statement, your where are you tracking your most recent and relevant accomplishments. You should have your list of your board members and their affiliations. You want to be able to have, you know, your 990 tax return. Those kinds of things, you can begin compiling those so that when it comes time for you to reply to a grant opportunity, some of that basic information that you can maybe cut, paste, and tweak a little bit is already there.
That's fantastic. So much of what you said to me speaks to collaboration and preparedness, and collaboration internally and externally. Because I definitely agree, when it looks better if you are XYZ youth organization who partners with XYZ church or XYZ mm-hmm. school after program, because there's a whole community around that. And I think sometimes what happens is we don't always know who else is doing the work, or we think we are the only ones. Nobody else. Mm-hmm. I'm the only one, because we didn't really look into seeing, no, actually the YMCA has a program there. Maybe we could partner mm-hmm. with them, or this program, you know, or all of these other pieces. So to me, that speaks so much to research and development, partnerships, not trying to be all things to all people and letting some other people help you in the process. What you said about that board, 100% board contribution, is so important. And also having a lot of those pieces for when the grant does come up, you're not scrambling to get that. You already have a template. You already know what they're going to ask for. All I got to do is just, you know, make it
Little
Put
tweaks.
like that. Right. Little tweaks here and there. Thank you, Corey. Little tweaks here and there. So before you let everyone else know how they can reach out to you, are there any final thoughts that you have? This has been really good. I'm going to do a recap.
Well, my final thought would be, I guess, really just spend time, like you said, doing that internal work, really, and really thinking through the programs or the projects that you're looking to get funded. Why is this important? Because at the end of the day, you need to be able to answer the grant maker or the funder's question. Why? Why should I care? Why is this important? Why will this make a difference? Because you're competing with other potential grantees.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So another thing that I want us to know is how can people get in contact with you? What's your site? Can you drop the link? How can they follow you on Twitter? What's your Facebook situation?
Sure, absolutely. So my website is thewordwomanllc.com, and I'm on Facebook. My Facebook page for the Word Woman LLC, you can find that at the Word Woman Consulting. I am on Twitter at Michelle Nusum, Nusum. And you can also reach out to me directly at info@thewordwoman.com. LLC.com, I'm sorry. info@thewordwomanllc.com.
Did I get that right? Look in the chat. Are all of those right?
Looks good to me.
All right. So I'm going to do a recap, and then you let everyone know the goodies that you have for them after the recap. So some of the things that Michelle talked about today is being grant ready, know what your organization does well, not chasing the money, but having your mission be primary, and looking for organizations that align with that. Identifying funders who already are funding something similar to what you are up to what you do. Remember that people give people money. So make those connections, network, let them see you more than just when you come to ask for a donation. 3 biggest mistakes Michelle identified was focusing too much on the activity and not as much on the actual outcome of what you're producing in the world. Playing realistically, engage, also be ready, willing, and able to partner with other people in the community who care about the same thing as you. There's lots of stakeholders in the community. Board donations are significant. Making sure that your board has 100% contribution level. Doesn't matter how much you're giving, just everybody's contributing. The thing that she said was I loved. Don't just rely solely on grants to keep your organization going. That is not the way. You will not do well that way. And Michelle, tell them what awesomeness you have. And do you have a link for it?
I do. It's the wordwomanllc.eventbrite.com. And so one of the, I'm a do-gooder. I help do-gooders to do good. So one way I do that is through my Pay What You Can nonprofit training program. So I offer a host of different trainings, everything, including grant writing, how to start a nonprofit, board training. I have a 3-hour board training that is Pay What You Can. So you go on to the Eventbrite site, you reserve your space, and then in the training itself, you pay for the training based on your ability to pay. And this is my way of making sure that individuals who are interested in either working for, volunteering with, or starting a nonprofit have the ability to access information.
Absolutely. Awesomeness. And from my end, I have a free 4-week live training available. Oops, I just put in the Eventbrite again. So the Eventbrite is from the Word Woman pay as you can live training. Is that live, right?
It is a lot. They're in person. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We have Baltimore, Prince George's County, South Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
Keep adding new places because people want us to come there.
Right. Go where the people are.
Yeah.
So my freebie goodie that I have for everyone who took the time to stay and listen to the end is a 4-week live training. This is no matter where you are in the world, you can access this. You just go to the link that I just dropped there. It is 4 weeks. We already just actually had our first training Sunday night. It's every Sunday night for the next 4 weeks. We just did nonprofit development. Next week, Sunday, is how to tell your brand story. So if you go there, and again, this particular training is absolutely free. It's a setup in a platform similar to this, so you can ask questions in real time, get answers in real time, and engage in real time. Please do reach out to me or Michelle to take your vision further. You do not have to go this alone. This work that we are doing in the world is not a one-person job. So we have to partner and we have to connect in every way that we can. Anybody who's been paying attention to the news, thank you, Corey, lately knows that we need each other to make it better, to demonstrate what is possible, to demonstrate the good that is possible in the world. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. If anybody wants to ask any more questions outside of that, you feel free to, but I'm just going to stop the recording now. And until next time, everyone, continue to serve more, do more, and be more.